And of course, we know this tragedy is having a big impact on the Jewish community. Earlier today, our Simone D'Alba spoke with a rabbi about how that community is coming together.
Joining us now in studio is Rabbi Abraham Cooper. He's the Associate Dean of the Simon Wiesenthal Center. Rabbi Cooper, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
I'm sorry for the circumstances. I wanted to touch on this. You just came from the scene, is what I understand. Can you talk to me a little bit about what that was like?
Well, of course, you have the LO tape, and everyone, unfortunately, knows what that means. I happen to have known or met the young lady who was murdered. It's a terrible tragedy, but it puts a marker, I think, on every Jew around the United States. We're looking at a perpetrator who came in from Chicago, came to a particular location at a certain time to a relatively obscure event, a Jewish event, and a lot of questions. Why did he come? What did he do? When I feel going to a spot like that as a father and grandfather, it's very tough. Mm-hmm. It's also a kind of message. This happened in our nation's capital, in the shadow of the FBI headquarters, etc. So a lot of thought and planning went into what happened here. We know who pulled the trigger, but I think in the next few days and weeks, I hope we'll know a lot more about the overall context for Jews. First of all, as a parent and grandparent, it's devastating. But if anyone who's involved with this thinks that this is going to, push our community into a corner or lessen our support for our loved ones in Israel, they're dead wrong.
I wanted to talk about, I imagine you're hearing a lot of fear and anxiety from community members, and when something like this happens, how do you help them cope through this?
Right, well, there's before October 8th, 2023, and after. That terrible day when 1,200 Jews were murdered and butchered and hostages taken. I think from that day on, many people, especially younger people in the American Jewish community, have grown up. The fear and concern is there. But also, I think, a toughening up of understanding that there's a war. That war has now also come to our front yard, and we know that we need help from our neighbors to cope. In the meantime, it'll be synagogues this weekend, the temples, reaching out to friends and loved ones, and strengthening the community. That's where we find our strength from.
Let's talk a little bit about in terms of what law enforcement should be doing now that something like this has happened. What would you share with our law enforcement community about what they can be doing to help the Jewish community feel safe?
It's a great question. I think that local law enforcement has the limits. On the one hand, they do have the eyes and ears out on the street, but in the era of social media, to connect the dots, we're going to need Homeland Security, FBI, CIA, etc. This really assassination. I don't know if these kids were the real targets. There are many, many more questions than answers, but in the meantime, we have broken hearts and real concern in our community.
What about some of the long-term, strategies you would recommend in terms of dealing with this escalation we're seeing in anti-Semitism, violence, hate crimes across the nation, not only in the U.S., but globally as well? Anything you would say to that?
It's a long menu, a long list. I would say one of the key areas is that, in platforms like X and all the rest of them, they need to step in, not wait for lawsuits or government laws. We have to degrade the online capabilities of the evildoers. Right now, they're operating, including groups that are associated with Hezbollah, with Iran, with China. There's a lot of work to do beyond the scale of local police, and you can put in all of the necessary security to secure a building. It wouldn't have made a difference in this case. They were shot outside.
As we begin to wrap up our interview, what is the main message that you want to share, not just with the Jewish community, but with people as a whole after this completely heinous attack?
Yeah, this is not only an attack on the Jewish community, and of course we're very grateful for support from our non-Jewish neighbors. We're going to need that to fight back against all hate crimes, but this is an attack on the United States of America. Make no mistake, the location, the target, and the way in which it was executed means that we're going to need all of our federal agencies and our leadership going right up to the president, the head of the FBI, et cetera, head of Homeland Security. If this continues, history teaches it starts with the Jews, it never ends with the Jews.
Rabbi Cooper, thank you for joining me today, especially given the circumstances. We appreciate you coming to talk with us and help us understand, what exactly played out. We appreciate your time.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you.
And of course, when big stories like this break in our community, you can count on us here at WUSA 9 to stay on top of the developments. We'll be sharing everything with you on WUSA 9 and streaming here on WUSA 9 Plus.